Hello and welcome to Odds Serie A Match Day 17. Danny, this Inter has the face of the champions, the face and the lack of the champions, we could say, after the game at the Olimpico.
Ciao Edo, well, it's +4 for Inter, so it's a big lead now on Juventus, who dropped 2 points at Genoa. Everything is going well for them. Yes, I do agree with you. The win against Lazio, probably a draw would have been a fair result, but Inter so good at exploiting the other team's mistakes and hitting in the right time, and still keeping clean sheet, looking very solid, and they're looking to finish the 2023 on a high.
Lazio had so many chances, and this match day, the last game is Roma-Napoli, Derby del Sole, with both teams in crisis. We could say we will analyze it later. So guys, remember to leave your comments. Of course, press the like, subscribe. Let's go on with the show. And I want to remind you, of course, if you're looking for a bookmaker to sign up with, remember that we have an exclusive welcome offer with 1xBet up to 130% if you sign up with our promo code. You have the link in the description. Well, Danny, I mentioned that Lazio was unlucky against Inter. Their numbers are so bad. They are 11th in the standings and they are traveling to Empoli, but they were good against Inter. They had so many chances finally. They were playing on the front foot, and this is a must win for them because Empoli, they are still very poor. They are still struggling to score goals. And Lazio, again, their numbers are so bad this season.
The game of the underachievers, Lazio -9 points compared to last season, Empoli +6. But whereas for Empoli, you could say, well, achieving salvation and what they did last season was the best they could have done. For Lazio, you would have expected much, much more after finishing second. I wouldn't say they had so many chances against Inter. I don't remember any miracle from Sommer, but it's true that they paid at a high price some mistake. Marusic back pass that allowed Lautaro to score the first goal. In the second half, Rovella missed a clear chance. The problem with Lazio is that they seem unable to change the game in due course. The substitution from Sarri produced absolutely nothing, and perhaps was it the right decision to leave Luis Alberto out from the start? What we know is that this is the worst start of the season for Lazio since 2016. Goal difference -2. They already lost 5 away games, so this could be tricky. They find it really difficult to score goals. Lazio last year at this stage they had scored 11 goals more, and when it comes to Empoli, lost 1-0 to Torino, had 2 goals disallowed. They are the worst attack in the top 5 leagues alongside Clermont, but in France there are only 18 teams, so Clermont are bottom. Empoli are luckier because they are third from bottom because there are 2 teams more, but they only score 10 goals. And yes, they are the worst home team, only 5 points, only 5 goals scored at the Castellani. They are young, they are a little bit naive, they always going to concede. But last season at this stage, the team that was 18th, Sampdoria, had 3 points less than them in the table. So there is still hope that maybe if they push on in the second half of the season, they can achieve salvation. But I find it really difficult. Look, if Lazio doesn't win this one, I don't think they're going to win any more games. I'm going to go for Lazio to score the first goal. Pays really well, 175.
Only one victory in the last 6 Serie A games was against Cagliari, and 7 defeats already this season for Lazio, so they have to react. Next game, this is a relegation 6-pointer, Sassuolo. Genoa. Sassuolo picked up a point against Udinese, coming back from 2-0 defeat. Berardi scored 2 goals from the penalty spots, and Genoa, Dani, grabbed a very positive draw at home against Juve, but the way form is quite concerning for Genoa.
But Genoa was really good at matching Juventus' spirit and matching Juventus' guile. We know that so far Juventus have won a lot of games by nerves, by willpower. But as soon as they found a team that was able to show the same level of intensity, especially in the second half, Juventus got unstuck. Credit for Genoa for being really, really organized. And, despite missing their top scorer, or what is supposed to be the top scorer, Retegui, they still managed to find a goal from Gudmundsson has been a very, very good revelation in Serie A so far, the player. They are level on points, these two teams, which tells you how bad Sassuolo are doing. Yes, Genoa away form is concerning, only 5 away goals. Sassuolo, by the way, have conceded 13 goals at the Mapei. If you look at the defensive number of Sassuolo, they are shocking. Still no clean sheet, second worst defense with 30 goals conceded, but if you look at the table of last season, they got the same points as last season. So that's typical Sassuolo. And last season, they finished with 42 points, winning 12 games in total. So far, they only won 4. So maybe they start winning some matches soon. So I mean, he's going to plan really for Sassuolo. That's exactly what they are. And just a word for Berardi, that was the 200 goal involvement. So 122 goals, 78 assists. Since his debut in Serie A, only Immobile with 236 goals involvement has done better. He's a guaranteed. Sassuolo are going to score, and I think Sassuolo are going to concede as well. Both teams to score here. That pays 178.
Well, last 7 games for Sassuolo ended up in both teams to score, and 12 out of the 16 games of this Serie A for Sassuolo ended in both teams to score. The side with more both teams to score alongside Frosinone. Also on Friday, we have Monza, Fiorentina. Monza, no option against Milan, only 1 victory in the last 5. But Fiorentina, Dani, looked bad against Verona. They were so lucky. They were so lucky to grab that victory, and they have to win here. We mentioned it in our last video. If they want to challenge for the European spots, even a top 4 finish this season, they have to win these kind of games, and then they have Torino and Sassuolo, middle-class teams.
This is a good chance for Fiorentina, who started the season well, then had a little bit of a dip, lost 2 home games, 2 consecutive games at home against Empoli and Juventus. Now they're only 1 point behind Bologna, but yes, they were so lucky against Verona. Terracciano, the goalkeeper, saved the penalty. The expected goals for Verona, do you know how many were? 2.93.
Yeah, I watched the highlights and I was shocked, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Terracciano made a couple of great saves. And if you look at the expected points based on expected goals, Fiorentina should have 7 less points on the table, so they should be closer to relegation. So eventually, this, I think, is going to might catch up with them. Fiorentina is always entertaining to watch. But considering they got no Nico Gonzalez and they have trouble scoring with the strikers, by the way, that was the first goal in the league from open play for Beltran. I think eventually this might catch up with them. They are still doing really well, plus 7 points on last season. So, you know, if Roma, Napoli, Lazio, they are not up to the race, they got a real chance to challenge for top spot. But can they keep clean sheets? Can they defend a little bit better? That's going to be tricky. Monza, on the other hand, negative goal difference, -1. They don't score many. And I think Monza, this season, they've been saved many times by their heroic goalkeeper, Di Gregorio. So really, this is a story of 2 great keepers, Terracciano, Di Gregorio, none of them in the frame of the national team, but they're doing really well. I think this is going to be a goals game. I think they're going to be a few chances here. Over 1 goal in the first half. That's the one I like the best. That pays 2. So if there's only 1 goal in the first half, you get your money back. More than 1 goal in the first 45 minutes, you win 2.
We have high odds for this game, both for Monza to win around 3 or for Fiorentina to win 2.5. They are the favorites for this game. Monza, they were wiped out by Milan in San Siro. Milan traveling to Salerno, and we saw one of the best Milans, Dani, of the season after beating Newcastle away. The Monza at home, something has changed. When Pioli is under pressure, usually there is a reaction. We have seen it also last season, so positive vibes to end the season, and Milan to win 1.5 could be good enough even for an ACCA.
But I think if Milan found their own dimension, which is not challenging for the Scudetto, is not playing in the Champions League, but the Europa League, where they were going to face Rennes, and I think they got a good chance of progressing, I think it's good for them. It's probably, they were considered stronger than what they actually are. The expectations were higher. But yes, I think the last 2 games showed that there is still a good side in there, perhaps not a top side, but the reaction was good against Newcastle and against Monza, considering also the emergency at the back, obviously strengthened by the return of Kjaer. A goal from Simic, born in 2005, and is already the 3rd one to play this season for Milan after Bartesaghi and Camarda. So Pioli is finding resources also in the youth. A good performance again from Leao and from Pulisic. And this is a side, Salernitana, that is playing well, but really collecting very, very little points. Last year, let's not forget, Milan won here 2-1, and that's when the crisis started post-World Cup. They had a very difficult 2023. Let's see if it's here where the crisis of Milan kind of officially ends. Has to be reminded that Milan is the only side, alongside Inter, always to score away from home in this Serie A. Let's go to Salernitana. They played well in the first half against Atalanta. They created chances. Also, when Atalanta went to 1-up, Dia hit the post, but he's at the back. The defending is comical, despite some good saves from Benoit Costil, the goalkeeper. They still have the worst defense in Serie A, 34 goals conceded. Second worst attack, only 12 goals scored. No clean sheets so far in Serie A alongside Sassuolo. 5 points adrift from relegation. And the news of this week is the return of Walter Sabatini, former sporting director of Salernitana, who managed to save them, changing the team completely in January in the first season, then left. So probably this is going to lead to more changes of player in January. Expect 12, 13 players to come and go. It's going to be a massive overhaul of the team. But I think so far it looks really, really bleak for Salernitana, who might concede a couple. Maybe they scored the odd goal. Milan defense not the perfect. Over 2.75 goals. That's the one I like. It pays 196. If there are only 3 goals in the game, you win alpha stake, but the stakes are quite high.
Sabatini was at Roma some years ago.
Yes, he was at Roma. He was at Inter. Is a sporting director able to find players, to scout players, and he's done it already at Salernitana time and time again. Sometimes he goes back to old players, the likes of Fazio, the likes of Ribéry, etc. But he manages to put a team together, and credit to them. He scouted Ederson, and they then sold to Atalanta for 20 million. So he's a very experienced man.
Well, the good news for Salernitana is that they are only 5 points away from Udinese, despite the bad numbers. So with all the investment, perhaps in January, they have still an option to stay in Serie A. Danny, on Saturday, before Christmas Eve, we have Frosinone Juventus. Very interesting game, because we saw Frosinone thrashing, destroying Napoli in Coppa Italia, and Frosinone in Serie A, they are weak away. When they are strong is when they play at home. They are the 6th best home team, only 1 defeat this season. Actually was against Napoli. And Juve, since they are always in these tight margins, against Genoa was it ended up badly. Perhaps they suffer here, and we could see a disappointment for Juve.
And mind you, Frosinone played with the reserves against Napoli. They made 8 changes, and still they were so good, so composed. They took the chances so well. They didn't risk that much in the second half when Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia came on. And against Lecce in the penultimate game, they played 2 mistakes from the goalkeeper, Turati, condemned them to defeat. It was 2 shots from range from Lecce. But in the expected goals, they won the game in Salento. They scored, and it's a team that does score goals. They only failed to score in 3 occasions this season. At home, they scored 14 goals, the same as Milan, 2 more than Napoli. So you could expect a tough game here for Juve. An interesting one, because Frosinone's 3 best players are 3 Juventus loanee, Soulé, Caio Jorge, and Berenchea. Let's see how they play now that they play against the parent club, and of course they want to return there, and then the Scudetto is on the line. But you would expect them to be extremely professional. Juventus, as I mentioned, they suffer in the second half against Genoa. They had good chances in the first half. They didn't convert them. Another under 2.5 goals. They only failed to score away from home in 1 occasion. That was in the nil against Atalanta. Frosinone only kept 2 clean sheets at home. So Juventus, okay, they might have chances. If you look at where Juventus are, still 3 points plus in the table, more than 3 points compared to last season. Last year, they only scored 1 more goal in the league, 25 compared to 24. So these are the numbers. You can't expect too much from Juventus. These are the players. the team hasn't changed much, so you could expect more of the same from them. And because it's more of the same, I think it's going to be an under here again, under 2.5 goals, 196. Yeah, maybe Frosinone could score a goal. I mean, I'm not against the idea, but I think when it comes to Juve, the under is always the one you have to look for. 196 under 2.5 goals here for this trip to Lazio for Juve.
I don't think Juventus can challenge the Scudetto in the long run to Inter, but let's see. I think
without the caps, without the Champions League, without the caps, anything can change in March, in April. And I always say Inter, Lautaro's flying and Çalhanoğlu was flying, but injuries, touching wood and touching all the sort of medals can happen.
Everything can happen.
It's a long season.
Exactly. Everything can happen. Yes. Talking about beautiful things happening in Italy, that is Bologna's fairy tale with Thiago Motta on the bench. By the way, Thiago Motta looks very young. He looks like ready to step on the pitch and play again. He beat his master Mourinho once upon a time. His coach, deservedly, they control the game. They beat Roma easily, I would say, even 2-0. They are in the top 4. Right now, third best team at home this season, only 1 draw and 1 defeat, and at the Dallara. So it's going to be very difficult, Danny, for Atalanta, but still also Atalanta positive vibes next to the Champions League spots. The problem is away from home, 4 defeats already for Atalanta.
Yeah, and the last one was a 3-0 defeat against Torino, which is a bit concerning for them. But those teams are flying high. Atalanta, if they win, they could leapfrog Bologna. Bologna, really, the revelation of this season. I don't think it happens by chance. They build the team year by year in the last couple of years under the direction of Sartori, the managing director who used to be at Atalanta, by the way, and of course the management of Thiago Motta. Bologna are all about control this season. Third best defense. Only 6 games have been over 2.5 goals. They keep the ball well. They have kept 7 clean sheets, Bologna, same as Atalanta. Atalanta score more. They score 8 goals more. They conceded 7 more as well. So whereas Bologna, they don't concede many chances. They keep the ball much better. Atalanta are more of a high press, but also high risking team. But if you look at the numbers of Bologna at home, they got the same points as Inter, 19, 5 consecutive home wins, first time since 2018-2019. That's the best start of the season since 1995, when there are the 3 points per win. As I said, they play well, they are comfortable, they look good on the ball, they look threatening. A lot of players, the likes of Ferguson, Zirkzee, Posh, have improved under Thiago Motta. Compared to last season, they got 9 more points on the table. They are the most improved team. So last season, they were 11th at this stage of the season. Same number of goals scored, 20. So they are not a high-scoring team. But last season, they conceded 14 goals more because, as I said, they didn't have that control of games. Atalanta, you mentioned, already lost 4 away games, won well against Salernitana, won well in the Europa League against Rakov Częstochowa. The front three, Lukman, Muriel, Paraselic, really look tuned in. They also find the goals from other sources, the likes of Miranchuk, Charles de Cateler. And remember, Atalanta are still without the 2 main striker, Traoré, who they signed from Almeria, and Scamacca. So better things to come if they manage to keep focus. Both teams to score here, 186.
Okay, also in a good trend, we have Torino, 4 points away from the European spots. They beat Empoli. Zapata scored the winner, 3 consecutive victories at home without conceding. And Danny, Udinese is the best team to bet on in the Serie A because 10 draws. This is a record, I believe, in Serie A. So there is a lot of money if we bet on draws for Udinese. We mentioned it in our previous video, for instance, when they played against Sassuolo.
They can win even when they go 2-0 up against Sassuolo. Then they kept conceding an awful lot of chances. Pajero got sent off in the second half. And yes, it's third end of the season, only 4 clean sheets conceded. Actually, they could have lost the game in the end. They got 12 points less compared to last year, and they've already sacked the manager. So really, they got nowhere else to turn unless there is a big overhaul of player, a big change of player in January. But can they afford to do that? The only positive news is Lorenzo Lucca, used to be at Pisa, then at Ajax, has scored his 5th goal of the season. But this is pretty much about it, about Udinese. It looks really, really uninspiring without the creativity of Deulofeu, without Beto, the move to Everton. Really, they look very weak. Torino continue to be a low-scoring side. Only 5 games so far this season have been over 2.5 goals. But they only got 5 points from the fourth spot. Can they dream? I think if they finish in the top 7, is a very good season for Torino, who finished the previous 2 seasons in 10th. 3rd consecutive home win, 3rd consecutive clean sheets. The bookies don't expect many goals because of Torino struggles, but maybe a strong start from the home side against a wounded Udinese could be on the card. It's difficult, this one, to bet on. I think I do fancy the over 0.75 goals in the first half, 174. So as long as there is 1 goal in the first half, you win at least half a stake. More than 1 goal in the first half, which I think is unlikely, very unlikely, you win the full stake. So let's go for something a little bit safer.
The draw, Danny, 3.6. We have to highlight.
I'll probably take it. I'll probably take the draw.
It's a good one. It's always a good strategy, in my opinion, to put a couple of draws around and see if you are right. Well, Danny, next game is Inter Lecce. At the end, resting Lautaro in the Champions League paid off in Serie A because he scored the opener. It was a big mistake from Lazio, 4 points advantage from Juve. By the way, I want to ask you before analyzing this game, how do you see this Inter Atletico? Because I see Inter slightly favorite, to be honest.
I think they got the experience on their side of having done the Champions League up until the final last season, and they have the know-how on how to break them down and to be patient. However, we saw they did suffer against Real Sociedad, who are 6th in La Liga, and if Atletico plays with the same intensity and with the same high press, I think Inter could be vulnerable there. I think it's going to be a battle, a very tight game. But I don't buy into the logic of this is going to be the old Atletico. I think they've changed a little bit. They play a little bit more on the front foot. But if you look at the midfield of Inter, I think they got better players than Atletico.
Well, it's still 2 months away, but Griezmann already said it's going to be a good game for the players, not for the viewers. Because it's a tough battle. Well, so it's already
I think it
a statement. Yeah, it's already a statement. And talking about this game, Danny, where do you see the value apart from Inter? We have to praise Lecce, massive victory against Frosinone. Is 8 points away from relegation, no defeats in the last 5. Brilliant.
20 points for Lecce. So basically, they just need 4 more wins and they will be saved, 35, 36 points, and they'll stay in Serie A, which is a big achievement for them, having changed the manager from Baroni to D'Aversa. They keep scoring late goals. They scored the 8th late goals in the last 15 minutes. Only Roma and Inter have done better. It's a team that shoots a lot. And, if you don't shoot, you don't score. And the 2 mistakes from the Frosinone goalkeeper gifted them the goal. They scored 5 goals already from outside the box. Only Sassuolo have done better with 6. So at home, they are a threat. It was the first win, has to be said, after 11 winless games in all competition for Lecce, and probably they didn't deserve it against Frosinone. When it comes to the defensive side of Lecce, is slightly more concerning. Only 2 clean sheets, no away clean sheet, 0 wins away. So if you look at the expected points, so expected goals for and against, they will be penultimate. They would have conceded 9 goals more. So this doesn't bode well for a team that is going to spend a lot of time defending when going to play the leaders and a team that is fired up like Inter. A little bit on the numbers of Inter. Now, Inter, if they win the next 3 games, Lecce, Genoa, and Verona, they finish the Girone d'Andata, so the first round of fixture, with 50 points, same as Napoli last year. They have 8 more points compared to last season, Inter. So they got the same points as Napoli after 16 games. But Napoli last season scored 2 goals less and conceded 6 goals more. So Inter numbers overall are even better, and especially is in the defense. They've conceded 15 goals less compared to last season, 11 clean sheet in Serie A, and as we mentioned before, they are excellent at taking advantage of opposition's mistakes. The turnover of Inzaghi is working. In the end, yes, it was a good strategy to rest players against Benfica, against Real Sociedad. There is so much focus to win the league and to add the second star into the shirt, which will mean that the 20th Scudetto they would have won. A quick word on Lautaro: 29 goal of the season for Lautaro, of the year, sorry, for Lautaro. The record, by the way, for Inter is 32, Stefano Nayers in 1951, and then with 30 is Giuseppe Meazza, whose stadium is named after, with 30 goals. So maybe it's a good occasion for Inter, for Lautaro to reach Meazza into as goal in the calendar year, playing at the Meazza against Lecce. So yes, Inter to win, Lautaro to score, always good bets. I'm going to go for Inter to score in both halves here, 187.
14 goals scored so far in Serie A for
yes.
Lautaro, top scorer. Next game is Verona Cagliari, relegation 6-pointer. Verona unable to win, as we mentioned. They were better in the Artemio Franchi, but they lost. Only 11 points, only 2 victories. Cagliari 13 points. Danny, usually way better when they play at home. Away, only 2 points. This could be another draw, perhaps.
It could be, but so unlucky, was mentioned against Fiorentina, Verona. That was the first time they didn't score in the last 4 games. And I think since they changed the model with the play with 3 up front, when Suslov right behind, they are much more threatening. They should have at least more points than what they got in the table. They only kept 1 clean sheet in the last 7 home games, so the home form is disappointing. 1 win and 3 draws. They only score 7 at the Bentegodi, 2 against Roma and 2 against Lecce. They are in the relegation battle, but they got 5 more points in the table compared to last year, so they still hope. Last season, Verona really kicked on in the second round of fixtures, and if they do the same, they could be comfortably saved if they maintain the same average. I don't think the team is weaker than last season. When it comes to Cagliari, the away form is really poor. 0 wins, only 5 goals scored. They are the worst away side alongside Empoli. Against Napoli, I think they had a decent game. They understood Napoli fragilities, frailties, problems, and they took advantage of it. In the end, they even had a chance to equalize, but they were beaten by 2 pieces of individual brilliance, especially the second goal, Kvaratskhelia with the assist of Osimhen. Is fantastic. Verona doesn't have the sort of players to do that, but yet I think it could be a high-scoring game. Over 2.25 goals is decent, 188. If there are only 2 goals in the game, you only lose half a stake.
Well, Cagliari lost to Napoli, and our last game is Roma-Napoli, Derby del Sole, although with a lot of clouds.
There's no much sun.
No,
yes.
Life is cloudy in both ends,
yes.
because Roma, they lost to Bologna. Not only that, Danny, is that they lose or they don't win any important game this season. Every time they have to face top opposition, they are not delivering, and they have Napoli and Juve next before the year ends, and then Napoli on the other side. They beat Cagliari, suffering. You mentioned Osimhen brilliance play with Kvaratskhelia goal, but again in Coppa Italia we saw them crumbling against Frosinone, so I'm not sure if they've improved, and I'm not sure which is the good bet.
No, I don't think they have improved, because they don't look like the team from Spalletti anymore, but they don't look like a team from Mazzarri either. They are a bit of an hybrid. They're still playing with the same formation, 4-3-3, but the movements, the spaces, the way they manage the possession is not there. There is almost no identity. And yes, against Cagliari, it's because you got on the pitch Osimhen, Kvaratskhelia, the return of Mario Rui is also important, and they managed to win the game. Otherwise, it would have been the same story at the Maradona. 2 other points lost there, but yeah, against Frosinone it was embarrassing. And also the worrying thing is that as soon as Mazzarri introduced Kvaratskhelia and Osimhen, they conceded the first goal and they conceded the other 3, and they didn't really threaten the Frosinone goal. Yes, Mazzarri made 9 changes in the formation, but it's not an excuse. You should be able to win those games. Napoli got minus 14 points in the table compared to last season. Roma got 5 points less in the table to compare to last season. So these are, again, two massive underachievers. Whereas for Roma, the fact that they were depleted without Dybala, without Lukaku, without Zalewski, Smalling, Abraham, Aouar against Bologna is a partial excuse. They didn't score. That was the only third time of the season they failed to score. The other two were against Inter and Lazio, but you've always expect them a little bit more from them, really. The goalkeeper from Bologna, Ravaglia, had just a couple of saves to make, but it wasn't enough. Only 4 clean sheets kept for both Roma and Napoli. Some of the defending is really dodgy there. Napoli, as we mentioned, still very nervous. If you look at the record of Roma at home, they only lost to Milan. Napoli only lost away to Juve. The good news is that Lukaku is back from suspension. Roma normally tend to score at the Olimpico. They score in the last 22 home games in all competitions, but normally this game, the game before Christmas, it's going to be a big build-up, a big feast, and I think, as always, it's going to be a game that will disappoint us. It's going to be an under 2. Well, I mean, it could be a good game, but you can't expect the fireworks here. Under 2.5 goals, 180. I know it's an old cliche with Mourinho, with Mazzarri, but it just smells of a 1-0 win, maybe with a goal from Lukaku or a goal from Osimhen, but really can't see more than 2.5 goals scored. By the way, the odds are 180.
Well, Roma don't defeat Napoli since 2019, both at home or away. So the head-to-head is really favorable for Napoli recently, getting also good results from the Olimpico. By the way, the odds for the outright odds for this game are very good. Roma to win 3, and Napoli to win 2.67. So if you fancy either of both teams, the odds are good, even going for a draw, no bet. Well, Danny, this is the last game before Christmas, as you said. Which one is your safe bet?
It's Lazio Asian Handicap 0 against Empoli, 147.
And the ACCA?
4 selections before Christmas. Let's see if we can deliver a bit of some gifts. Milan win. Bologna Atalanta over 2 goals. Verona Cagliari over 2 goals. Roma Napoli under 3 goals. The total odds for this Christmas ACCA, 541.
It's not the last match day of the year for Serie A, because the following week we have more games in Serie A. Dani Fisichella, Merry Christmas, Buon Natale.
Buon Natale, Buon Natale, Merry Christmas to everyone at Oddspedia. Everyone's
soon.
watching, everyone's subscribing. Have a good time, and we'll see you in a couple of days. Bye-bye.